Buckle in, boys, girls, and others, because it's time for another slice of that delicious best games pie. I hope you're all hungry. It's going to be a tasty one today. 2004 was wonderful for many reasons. It was the year that gave us Facebook, never mind, House MD, and the cinematic masterpiece that was Shrek 2. It was also the year that gave us an absolute smorgasbord of brilliant games, and so we're back yet again to remind you of the very best. Most of you will already be familiar with how we do things around here, but for those of you who are new, first of all, welcome! Here are the rules we play by when compiling our best of lists. A game can qualify for a spot if it was released in at least one territory in the year 2004 and received a minimum of 7 professional reviews. We take our review scores from Metacritic or Game Rankings, and where the two aggregators differ in opinion, we go to whichever score is highest. We also exclude any ports or re-releases, as they'll appear on the list that covers the original release year. Sound good? Well then, let's get to it. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best games of 2004. Number 10. ESPN NFL 2K5, Xbox, 92%. Oh yeah, here we go, letters and numbers time. What is that title? The early 2000s were a great time to be a fan of the sports ball, as year after year the likes of EA and Sega were churning out top-notch titles. The winner of the 2004 showdown was Sega's offering, ESPN NFL 2K5, a game that was better than its competitors in every way. Much of the gameplay was fairly standard, but there were several features the game introduced that wowed audiences. Firstly, there was the VIP system, which basically learned how you played and then converted your profile into AI that others could use for practice. There was also a celebrity mode featuring the likes of David Arquette, Carmen Electra, and Steve-O that brought a bit of silliness to proceedings. Not only was ESPN NFL 2K5 the best American football title of 2004, but it was also a great deal cheaper than its competitor, Madden NFL 2005. So not only were players getting a superior sporting experience, but they also saved a little bit of cash too. EA got the last laugh though, as in December 2004 they signed an exclusivity deal with the NFL, meaning the Madden series was the only one allowed to use NFL team and player names, which meant no more Sega NFL games. What a shame. Number 9. Ninja Gaiden, Xbox, 92.54%. It seems that in the battle of pirates versus ninjas have triumphed. Well, in 2004 they did at least. Set in the same universe as the Dead or Alive series, Ninja Gaiden tells the story of Ryu Hayabusa, a master ninja on a quest to retrieve a stolen sword and avenge his clan after they are all massacred. Upon its release, the hack-and-slash adventure enjoyed critical acclaim, and many regarded it as the best reason to own an Xbox. Both the visuals and audio were top-notch, pushing the limit of what the console was able to achieve. The gameplay was exciting and challenging in equal measure, and the level designs kept things fresh for players from the moment they booted the game up until the second the credits rolled. Team Ninja had set out to revive the much-loved Ninja Gaiden series from the 80s, and it's fair to say they absolutely nailed it. It's clear a lot of love and care went into the 2004 version, as it not only did the old games justice, but it also brought a whole new generation of gamers into the Ninja Gaiden fold. So well done, Team Ninja. I think you've earned yourselves a nice chocolate biscuit and a cup of tea. Number 8. World of Warcraft, PC, 93%. You don't get to become the world's most played MMORPG without being at least a little bit good, but it turns out that World of Warcraft is more than just good. It's actually superb. There is a lot of stuff to do in the World of Warcraft, and we could fill several videos trying to document all of the various plot threads and quest lines. When players first load up the game, they'll need to create their own character, choosing from one of several different races and classes, as well as deciding whether they'd like to align themselves with the Alliance or the Horde. From there, they must venture out into the world of Warcraft and begin leveling up, which can be done by taking on quests, completing dungeons, or fighting other players in the PvP PvP areas of the game. WoW released to a stellar reception from both critics and players alike, who were floored by the rich gameplay, the experience system, the approach to character death, and the amount of content to be found throughout the vast world of Warcraft. By 2010, World of Warcraft had over 12 million subscribers, and by 2014, there were over 100 million accounts in existence, making the game the most popular MMORPG in the world. The normal world, not the world of Warcraft. Number 7. Unreal Tournament 2004, PC, 93%. If in 2004 you were a fan of being plopped down into an arena and just shooting things with reckless abandon, then it's likely you'd have a great time with Unreal Tournament 2004. The game is set in a universe where the Empire of the Humans has been torn apart by intergalactic war. In order to suppress the anger of the colonies, some smart aleck came up with the idea of staging a gladiatorial tournament, but the people loved it so much that it became an annual thing, with sponsored teams battling one another in dedicated arenas. In terms of gameplay, Unreal Tournament 2004 players could expect a first-person arena shooter experience with 10 different gameplay modes, including the likes of Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and Last Man Standing. Not only did the game boast a whole bunch of different ways to play, but it also came with over 100 different maps and enough weapons to make Charlton Heston blush. Not only did the game go down with critics like a cold drink on a hot summer's day, but thanks to its extensive modification support, it also paved the way for a number of new games as well. Number 6. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, Xbox, 93%. Oh, here he is, Mr. Tom Clancy, back with yet another fantastic video game. I wonder what he's got for us this time. It's Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, we said it right at the beginning of this entry. It isn't often that a sequel is as good as what came before it, but Pandora Tomorrow was every bit as epic as the original Splinter Cell, bringing back all of the mechanics that fans knew and loved, but with a brand new story to captivate them for hours on end. Pandora Tomorrow once again follows the exploits of Blops agent Sam Fisher as he attempts to bring down the terrorist Suhadi Sedano. Sedano has masterminded the Pandora Tomorrow plot, which would see the smallpox virus unleashed across the United States should he be killed or detained. Critics lauded both the single-player campaign and the online multiplayer mode, praising the story for feeling more cohesive than in the previous game, as well as the game's stealth mechanics, which were well executed. Additionally, the graphics were outstanding for the time, the sound was delightful, and the voice performances were top-notch. There was some criticism directed towards the game's linearity, but if you could get past that, you would find a solid stealth title with a fantastic story and superb gameplay. Number 5. World Soccer Winning 11-7 International, PC, 93.33%. This is not the first time we've seen the World Soccer Winning 11 series, or Pro Evolution Soccer series if you want to get European about this, on one of these lists, and I've got a funny feeling it probably won't be the last. When it came to its gameplay, Winning 11-7 wasn't all that different from Winning 11-6. It still focused on realism rather than arcade-style gameplay, and players were expected to use skill and strategy to win matches. Winning 11-7 did come with some new features though, all of which made it worth buying, even if you already had a copy of its predecessor. Naturally, the graphics had been updated, and the devs had refined the gameplay, physics, and AI. The game also introduced a shop mode, where players could buy items with points they'd accrued, as well as an expanded Master League that came with a plethora of new players. Most critics agreed that, at the time, Winning 11-7 was the finest football game ever to grace players' machines, praising everything from its controls to its replayability. Basically, it was the closest you could actually get to playing some sport without getting covered in grass stains. Number 4. Burnout 3 Takedown, Xbox, 94%. Racing games are all well and good, but the vast majority of them reward players for driving well. Let's face it though, there's not much fun in that. In fact, if I wanted to get rewarded for safe driving, I'd just get my insurance company to come out and fit a black box to my car. Criterion Games and EA clearly understood this though when they created the Burnout series, a bunch of games that said to heck with the highway highway code and instead incentivized reckless driving. The series' third installment, Burnout 3 Takedown, introduced the takedown mechanic, which allowed players to earn an all-important speed boost by ramming their opponents off the road. The game also came with an all-new road rage mode, in which players could really get out all of that pent-up aggression by performing as many takedowns as possible within a time limit. Burnout 3 wowed critics who were impressed by its ability to stand out in a sea of bland racing titles. The graphics and sound were excellent, the new takedown mechanic was well received, and critics applauded the game overall for doing things that would appeal to most gamers and not just those who were mad on racing games. Number 3. Halo 2, Xbox, 95%. Oh boy, or girl, wasn't 2004 a great year for the Xbox? In fact, assuming my maths is correct, and I'm assured by experts on the subject that it very much is, exactly half of this list has been populated by Xbox titles. Well done, Microsoft. Fantastic showing. For the follow-up to 2001's Halo Combat Evolved, players got to step into the big green shoes of Super Soldier Master Chief once again. Following the events of the first game, the war to stop the Covenant rages on, and Master Chief must head back into space in order to put an end to their plans to activate yet another Halo installation. Halo 2 was released to widespread critical acclaim. In particular, its multiplayer was lauded by reviewers, many of whom claimed it was the finest Xbox Live experience available to players at the time. There was also a lot of love for Halo 2's audio-visual presentation, with most critics agreeing that the game looked and sounded absolutely stunning. There was a little criticism directed towards Halo 2's campaign, which some felt was too short and was let down by its cliffhanger ending. But critics were willing to overlook all those things on account of the fact that the rest of the game was so gosh darned good, if you'll pardon my language. Number 2. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, PS2, 95.08%. For the third year in a row, Rockstar have showed up with yet another outstanding Grand Theft Auto title, and this time, all of the action takes place in the fictional state of San Andreas. Like GTA 3 and Vice City, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas featured a sprawling open world that players were free to roam and explore as they saw fit. The game's story focuses on Carl C.J. Johnson, who returns home after the murder of his mother. Upon reuniting with his friends, however, he's soon drawn into a life of crime and frequently clashes with the corrupt police force and rival gangs. Perhaps the most impressive thing about GTA San Andreas was its sheer scale. The map was absolutely huge for the time and was jam-packed with things for players to do. It also received praise from critics for its writing and the performances of its voice cast, which included the likes of James Woods, Chris Penn, and none other than Mr. Mother Flipper himself, Samuel L. Jackson. There were admittedly some issues with the graphics and frame rate, but although critics did comment on these, most agreed that the problems didn't really detract from the overall experience, and that GTA San Andreas was still an absolute triumph of a game. And number 1, Half-Life 2, PC, 96%. Here he is, everyone's favourite bespectacled hunk, Gordon Freeman. Considering many gamers rank Half-Life 2 amongst their very best games of all time, it isn't really surprising that it's top of our best of 04 list. If you haven't played Half-Life 2, and if you haven't, then just what the flip are you playing at all, then allow me to explain the premise. It's a rough old time for the citizens of planet Earth. The incident at the Black Mesa Research Facility, which takes place during the OG Half-Life, attracted the attention of hostile alien race, the Combine, who were able to invade Earth and conquer it in just 7 hours. In the time since they've taken over, the Combine have implemented a brutal police state, and it's up to Gordon to put things right. Half-Life 2 received perfect scores from a number of different outlets, and near-perfect scores from many, many more, with critics praising everything from the writing to the graphics to the physics, all of which were very much ahead of their time. Put simply, Half-Life 2 was the shake-up that the FPS genre desperately needed. And there's little wonder that almost 20 years after its release, gamers are still playing it, enjoying it, and desperately hoping for a direct sequel.